lovely people, and welcome back to Bold Moves Podcast. I'm really interested in our topic today. We're going to be talking about PR. I don't know a lot about PR, so I'm very excited to talk to my guest. I have with me here Larissa Banting. She is one of only a handful of professionals to be accredited by the Canadian Public Relations Society through her boutique agency, LBPR. Did I say that right? LBPR. She helps entrepreneurs amplify their audience and authority via publicity. After moving to Costa Rica in 2002, she opened one of the first destination wedding planning firms in Central America, and within 4 years had been named the top 30 destination wedding planners in the world, with her business hitting over 7 figures. Larissa is the author of the bestseller Costa Rica, the Brat Guide. Welcome to the show, Larissa.
Thanks for having me, Angela.
It's awesome to have you here, and I'm glad you reached out because you have a very interesting story. You're still in Costa Rica from what we were chatting before, so you've been there a while. Well, let's start with your origin story. What inspired you to pack up your life, move to Costa Rica, and start up your own business?
Well, it wasn't in the plans, to be honest. I was working as a unit publicist. So unit publicist is on film and television when something's in production. So we're there during the production, gathering all the materials, and then once we wrap, then we pass that on to the next set of publicists who do all the PR for when it actually gets released. So I was here during the filming of a movie of the week for CTV Network. For those of you who are Canadian, you'll know that. And so we're filming on the Caribbean coast. It was November, December 2001. Met one of the local actors, thought he was pretty cute. We wrapped in Costa Rica December 6th, flew back to Edmonton. We had 2 weeks of shooting, wrapped December 20th, and I was on a plane January 8th back to Costa Rica. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. All my friends were like, "Are you going through a midlife crisis? Like, what's going on here?" But I was just like, I felt like this was where I needed to be, and this was the person I needed to be with. And so we were married on the beach a year later, where we had met while we were filming, because we were staying at 2 hotels next door to each other as cast and crew. And at that time, I mean, I couldn't be a publicist because it was 2002. I don't know, like the Wayback Machine, if you remember. We were like still on dial-up internet. We were still using fax machines. There was no laptop lifestyle. So I had to pivot because when I moved down here, I didn't speak Spanish. I didn't know the landscape for, the media here. It was a completely different culture. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I was teaching English for like $3 an hour to start with. And then I got a job working for a travel agency, and their relationship with their wedding planner broke. And so they were needing someone to take that role. And I grew up, my parents were event planners. They actually did the largest Canada Day celebration outside of Ottawa. It was 100,000 people over a 4-day weekend in Hamilton. It was called It's Your Festival. So it was all the ethnic groups in the city would put their tents up and have music and everything. And so, I mean, to me, it was like, well, hey, I planned my own wedding here in Costa Rica. And, I did event planning as part of my PR work, working in Canada. So I started being a wedding planner for them. And then it got to the point where it got so popular with the weddings, I just wasn't doing travel planning anymore. And then I was like, well, why don't I start my own business? So I created Weddings Costa Rica. Didn't have money for advertising because, again, back then, there was no social media. Like Zuckerberg was still in high school, I think. So you either did Google ads or you bought those big, the bridal magazines, and those ads were about, you could buy a car for a cost of those ads. So I was like, well, I didn't have the money for that. So I was like, well, what can I do? I know PR, but I don't know the wedding industry. I don't know the travel media. So through a friend, I was introduced to someone who was starting her own PR agency. She was breaking away from a big agency in New York, first client. And she got me into. We had the first real wedding south of Mexico to be featured in a major bridal magazine. And I did a whole press junket, went up to New York City, like met all the editors of the big bridal magazines, was interviewed on Martha Stewart Living Radio. So what happened was so we were in the media, and Destination Weddings and Honeymoons magazine created something called the A-list top 30 destination planners in the world. So I was named to it. And I'm the only one in Central and South America. And I thought, well, okay, this is fantastic. Did I really think I was one of the top 30 in the world? I mean, I don't think so, but the perception was because I was everywhere, right? Like we were in the media. And because of having that legitimacy and that credibility all of a sudden, like, oh, they won this award, they're in these magazines, they're for real. Because prior to that, getting these brides to have their parents wire, $10,000, $20,000 to someone down in Costa Rica, like, are you guys living in huts down there? You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of it was like very scary for people. So having this legitimacy and that kind of stamp of approval, it just took off, and we ended up hitting 7 figures in our business the following year.
Wow. So you really used your background in PR to build up this new business in a new country, not even speaking the language or anything.
No.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty
amazing,
crazy.
bold move you made. Have you always kind of been like that? Just like have an idea and just like go for it. Like what were you like as a kid?
I think I get that from my father, because my father was very much like, his whole thing was, well, no one told me I couldn't do it. And so that's what really, really stuck with me. And so I was always, I wasn't precocious, but I just had this, well, sure, let's try this, I moved to, when I graduated from university, moved to Montreal, was in a professional dance company. And then I moved to Edmonton. I was going to do my master's degree. I was just, whatever came along, and I thought, okay, well, I listened to my gut, and I found out that I am a manifesting generator. So apparently I am supposed to listen to my gut if you believe in human design. But I didn't want to live life with regrets. And I think because my father was someone who always took bold moves. He ended up running for, federal politics and whatnot. And he just always, like, he was, an adventurous type of guy. And I think that was instilled in me. And so I think that I don't like to be limited to what people think I should be doing. It's like, well, I feel I can do this. I'm going to see if I can do this, and I'm going to go for it. And I don't want to live my life with regrets.
Yeah, what a great role model to have. And I think we were talking about this in the green room, but yeah, a lot of people, I know I've read nurses and anybody who's in this kind of like end of life care kind of industry, they talk to people and their big regret is like, I lived my life according to someone else's rule book, and I never really did what I wanted to do. That's like the number one regret. So
yeah,
that's why I'm here to be like, look what's possible, right? And make your own rules. I think it's like Steve Jobs, which I don't think he's the best like character person in the world, but he did have some good things to say. And one of the things he said, I think it was him, was like, all the rules that you're following were made up by people who are no smarter than you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what are these arbitrary rules that we're just following? Why?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, go to school, get a 9 to 5 job, or work for the same company and then retire. Like that doesn't happen anymore,
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So, and that's why I'm here to say, everybody has their expertise. Like, why not package it up and build your own thing, right? Your own thing, your own way, making your own hours and doing things your way. It's totally possible right now. Like, we're beyond the dial-up days of internet, and you even did it before that. So that's quite a feat. And we'll talk more about that, because I do want to get pretty deep into the PR stuff, because I've never used it myself, and I've never really known that many entrepreneurs to use it, but we are going to talk about that and how that's possible, because it seems like I think one of the misconceptions is, well, I have to be really big, or I have to have something really incredible going on. Like I have to have discovered the cure for cancer or something before I can do any PR. I think that's where people's minds are at. I don't know if you'd agree with that. Like, what are some
Yeah,
misconceptions that folks have?
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, we'll get into this, but with the new changes in AI and how AI is being used for search, because over 77% of people online have used AI for searching. And the rules have to completely change. What people used to do for SEO for Google search does not apply. Like the backlinking and the keyword stuffing and whatnot. What AI is looking for is mastery and credibility, like third party PR. Like that. So that's the thing. If you're not on podcasts, if you're not using press releases, if you're not getting yourself out into online outlets that have credibility, are seen as experts, having authority, you need to be an authority building outlets, because this is what AI is scraping for their searches. So if
Yeah.
you're missing the boat otherwise.
Okay. So it's really something you have to do. Even solopreneurs, even small business owners, you got to be getting out there, building your authority in some way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really non-negotiable. Okay. So what's your top advice for entrepreneurs who want to pitch themselves as the go-to experts? Maybe they've never done this before, they've never thought about it. What's the first step?
Well, I think the first step is just to get over yourself.
Wow.
To be, because like you said, people are like, oh, like I didn't discover the cure for cancer. Like, who am I to go? Like, no, like there's nothing. The thing is with the media, there's nothing saying you have to be this high to get onto the ride. And, like how did Kim Kardashian become so famous? Through the media, right? Like nobody knew who Kim Kardashian was Paris Hilton's assistant at one point, right? Like
Oh,
have
I
that
didn't
claim
know
to,
that.
yeah. So, but it's the media. And so the thing is, I always say to people, think about the media as being like baseball. You've got your little league, you've got your minors, and you've got your major league. So, like, don't expect to go and get a feature in Forbes your very first time up to bat, right? Start in the little league. So that's like your local outlets. If you, your niche publications, whatever your business is in, like whatever that part of, if you're in, I don't know, say that you're a financial expert or whatever, then start pitching yourself to outlets that are dealing with finances. It's like a muscle. You have to build up. And,
Yeah.
and then once you start getting some of that juice behind you, you start getting more confident with your messaging. You start kind of, feeling out what is your special sauce that you can bring to the conversation. And then you can start hitting like the minor leagues, right? And then you can build up to the majors. I got a lot of people who are like, okay, well, I want to be on, like the, Amy Porterfield's podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And like, do you have any experience that they're going to look at and say, okay, well, do you have an audience? Have you had experience? Are you going to be a good guest? That all comes with time, and like, you don't have to put in the 10,000 hours per se, but you got to start somewhere. So the thing that I always, everyone's on a journey, and doesn't matter where you are in that journey, you have expertise, you have knowledge to share. There's always going to be somebody who's a few steps behind you, and you're you have your own unique take on things. And that's what the media is looking for. So when you're thinking about pitching the media, you're not pitching, hi, I'm Larissa, do a story about me. Just like when we reached out to you, Angela, it wasn't, hi, I'm Larissa, you should, I hope you'll interview me. We reached out and it was like, here are some talking points that I can share with your audience. Here's how it's going to benefit your listeners. And that's what you have to think about. It's not about me. It is about, how can I serve the audience, because you as a podcaster, the journalist writing for like the magazines or podcast blogs or whatever, it all comes down to the same thing: the audience. If the audience isn't receiving interesting information, that something that's going to help them do better at their job, live their life a little bit better, or whatever, be entertained, they're going to go over to the competition. So when you have that little flip in how you think about the media, it changes everything completely, because all of a sudden it's not about you, it's not about that podcaster or that journalist, it is about the audience, and the two of you coming together to serve those people. And so that's what you've got to think about, is always, how is this going to make their lives a little bit better? How can I share my knowledge, my experience, and give that little grain of something that's going to help them?
Yeah, that really shifts the perspective also for the nervous entrepreneur that's like, oh, I don't know, I've never done this before. How do I get myself out there? And because you're so focused on you, right? How am I going to look? How am I going to sound? What am I going to say? If you're focused on serving, right, the audience, how can me with my knowledge serve the audience? Like, it's all about giving them something of value, right? If you're focused on that, you're far less nervous and more eager to pitch yourself, right?
Exactly. And it could be something as simple as, if you went to college or university, for example, just to give you an idea of where to start. They all have alumni magazines, right? Because they showcase, hey, like if you come to our school, you're going to do great things. So that's a great place to start. Reach out to the editor of your alumni magazine and somehow tie in your time at that school to your success where you are right now as an entrepreneur or business owner. It might be like, oh, Professor Smith's English class, it really taught me how to, communicate with and storytell. Or maybe it's like, oh, Professor Brown's business course laid the groundwork for me to become a successful business owner. Whatever it is, but you tie it in to make it of interest.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, the alumni magazines. Maybe I'll pitch mine.
Or if you're a hobby, like maybe you're a runner. There's a ton of running podcasts, magazines, whatever. How can you tie in your hobby to what you do as a business owner? Like maybe I'll just give you a quick example. So maybe you're a distance runner, and like okay, like all the challenges that I face running marathons, being able to overcome, like when I hit the wall and I feel I can't go on again. All of us as business owners and entrepreneurs have hit that wall at some point in our careers. And from running, here's what it taught me how to break through. The consistency, training every day, even getting up in the morning and putting those running shoes on, even if it's like raining or snowing, I don't feel like it, I've got a headache or whatever, taking care of myself, whatever it is, but find unique ways that you can tie in what it is that you do, because people don't expect to have a business lesson from a running magazine or a running podcast, but it's like, oh, because then you're building tribe, right? Because how many other business owners are runners? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I'm a runner, they're a runner. We're cool because we both love doing the same thing. And you know what? I need actually a business coach. And this guy sounds perfect because he's a runner. We're in the same tribe. So there's a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you want to find outlets where you're going to stand out and not just be one of another. Let's say you're a real estate agent and you go on a real estate podcast. Well, that's like too on the nose. Like and you're not going to be remembered because you're just one of many. Or maybe that's something you do, but to stand out, you want to go do something different.
Well, yeah, I always, but when we talk about it, I always say, like, look at think about it as different verticals, right? And where are your audiences hanging out? So you want to tag into where they are, but also from an authority building. Yes, you definitely do want to get into your niche outlets in your sphere. So if you're a real estate agent, yes, you want to get into real estate magazines and real estate podcasts, because then you can showcase like, oh, I've been featured on these,
Right.
industry authority outlets.
Right. So it's a mix of like building authority within your niche and then finding where, so because probably possibly um your audience isn't listening to the real estate podcasts, but that just builds your authority in that industry. And so you would also need to supplement that with finding where your audience is. Right.
Right. So you want to have different strategies because
Yeah.
it's not one size fits all. You
Yeah.
have to customize. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it kind of sounds like you need a few things in your starter pack. So you need, like, when you reached out to me, you had some pitches for angles, like storylines, right? You wanted to talk about PR or podcasting, or there was a list of 3 topics or subjects. You might, I don't know if people that you'd be pitching to, like someone like Amy Porterfield, would she be interested in how big is your email list? Things like this. Should you have like a speaker sheet or a little like resume type looking bio sheet? What would be good to have starting out pitching, even locally?
Okay. Well, I mean, when you do your pitch, your outreach, you want to make sure, like, research, right? You want to make sure, like, if you're pitching to a podcast, listen to the podcast. Like I say, listen to at least 2 episodes, at least 10 minutes, so that you can see, is this a good fit? Are they,
Right.
maybe it might be in the same topic as what you want to talk about, but maybe the host is really irreverent. Maybe like their personality is completely opposite, and you wouldn't feel comfortable. So you got to like listen, see what they're talking about. What are some of the subjects, the topics that are like kind of they kind of focus on. You want to let them know, like reference something in that, maybe in one of the episodes, and say, hey, really, when you had John Smith on the other day talking about making gardening with gardenias, it made me realize that I've been missing out on how to put some lovely flowers in my flower box. I don't know, whatever it is, but you want to show that, hey, I've been paying attention. Short little, like, 1 sentence kind of overview of who you are and why are you of interest to that particular media outlet, like, and what can you bring to the discussion table, right?
Mm.
Then you can give a couple of here's a couple of topics I can discuss. If it's for an article or something, like, again, like, here's like maybe 2 or 3 ideas for a possible article. Then have a short bio, and your bio should third person. All right.
Okay.
And it's hard for people because it feels weird to talk about, Larissa Banting is a blah, blah, blah. And that's the third person. And I don't know if people remember that TV show Dragnet.
Oh yeah.
That's what your bio needs to be. It should be no more than 2 or 3 sentences, and just the facts: who you are, what you do, who you
Okay.
serve, why are you an expert, and who do you help. So the who, what, where, when, why, right?
Okay.
And this is something we call it a boilerplate, because you're
Okay.
literally boiling everything down into just the facts. So I always say to people, imagine this little paragraph, this short little paragraph. If someone in Italy found it on the street, they could pick it up, read it, and know exactly who you are and what you do. Maybe you're someone that might be able to help them. All right.
Mm.
But you don't want to get into hyperbole, so stay away from the adjectives, stay away from the adverbs, just factoids.
Just like, okay.
Just factoids. And then how do they get in touch with you? So and the thing to remember is that when you reach out to the media, I mean, their inbox is inundated. Like, and a journalist writing for a major outlet can be getting 70 pitches per day.
Wow.
Yeah, per day.
Yeah.
So, and you have to be like, and they're scanning. So you've got to make sure, like, just like point form,
Right.
white space. Do not make it into War and Peace. Like, just keep it super short and to the point, so people can scan and see, is this someone I'm going to be interested in to serve my audience or no? All right.
Right.
And about 70% of the yeses come on the follow-up. So if you don't hear from after a week, do just a quick little, hey, I know you're probably like inundated with your inbox, just bumping this up to the top of your messaging. Another week, if you don't hear, send one more, hey, just checking in. And if you don't hear after 2 follow-ups, move on.
Okay.
You can always come back. You never know. I've had people come back to me like 4 or 5 months after my last pitch, like after my last follow-up. Hey, I saw your email. I'm digging out from under my inbox. Yeah, I'd be interested. So because especially for podcasts, you've got to remember, like yourself, this is not your full-time job.
No.
Right. So with podcasts, there is often going to be a bit of a lag. Obviously, reaching out to like print media or television or radio is a different story, but give a little more kind of like a runway for podcasts, is because they're not doing this on a full-time basis. Do recommend, yes, like there's a lot of people say do a speaker sheet. The thing, I don't personally do a speaker sheet per se, because they're done as a PDF, and I find that it's not really that helpful for, say, like you as a podcast host, because you can't cut and paste anything.
True. Yeah.
Right. So what I like to do, and then it's usually an attachment. What I like to do is I've started putting everything into a Google Doc with, here's all the links to the media, like their social media, and how many followers they have, email address, how big is their email list, their phone number in case they need to get in touch, the link to their freebie, because the beautiful thing about podcasting is you have the show notes, and you can weigh some kind of lead magnet, so that the listeners can like, oh, I really enjoyed listening to them. I would love to go deeper, and then they can get this helpful thing and get onto the email list. So when for everybody, right? You can't do that with other media outlets. They will do a link like to a URL, but they're not going to do any kind of promotion. Like a free lead magnet or whatever is going to be seen as promotion by other media outlets, so they won't do it.
I see.
That link in there, bio, again, that boilerplate, suggested speaking, like here's some ideas for talking points, and also like 20 questions, like, because when you're doing an interview, they don't know your business, they don't know your background. So if you can put together like 20 suggested questions, that will help kind of almost give them like a roadmap.
Yeah. And give you, especially if you're starting out, you're a bit nervous getting onto, like, this podcast is live, for example, there's no editing. If you're nervous with that, you can at least know that, hey, I kind of know what I'm going to be speaking about, and I know where this is going, so I can kind of prepare in my mind and feel a little more at ease as well.
Exactly. And then the other thing I recommend is to put your headshots into a Google folder and put that link on that. So then that way they can download. Now, the one thing I'm going to say, okay, if you please, if you're going to be doing anything, spend the money, get the professional photos done.
I agree.
Please, it's just, if you can't, like maybe you're not at that point yet, there's a ton of easy tutorials, because you can get some pretty darn good shots using a smartphone.
Yeah, you can.
But make sure that your background is clean. Make sure that you've shaven. If you're a guy and you usually don't have a beard, shave. I had a client of mine. I'm like, okay, like you don't have a headshot. Can you send me just a headshot? He sends me something, and I swear to God, it looked like he just rolled out of bed, and it was like in his and like there was like, and I'm like, no, like clear background. Like
or outside or something with a nice background.
You want something that's going to be professional and it's not cluttered in the background.
Okay, those are all good points. I hadn't thought of the Google Doc thing. As a designer, that kind of makes my skin crawl, because it's not designed nicely, but I understand it's much more useful in the end. And having to click around and find information when you've got 70 emails to get through in your inbox is not a good idea. So I do like just having plain text in the email, bullet point format, so it's easy to read. Boom, boom, boom. This is what I am about. This is why I can help. These are my topics. And like, that's what you sent to me, which was
Yeah.
excellent, right? Very short, very to the point. I could read it right quickly and decide, yes or no. Obviously it was a yes.
The other thing too is just if you're doing cold outreach to someone,
Yeah.
and you have an attachment with like a speaker page, there's
Yeah.
a chance it's not going to make it into the inbox because a lot of people
There's
have.
that too. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Or will they really click, like, as far as user experience design goes, having someone do an extra click, even that one little extra action, it's like there's the likelihood of that happening. It just reduces your chances. So yeah, I understand that. Is there any other way that you can stand out in a crowded inbox? I guess maybe subject lines, like researching a bit of that, what works, what doesn't, or
Yeah,
any
I
other?
mean, I always say clarity over clever.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
Yeah.
want the media person having to guess, what is this about? Personally, I like to put pitch into parentheses so they know right off the bat, okay, this is a pitch. And then
Okay.
just like they say, seven words is kind of like the ideal number for a subject line.
Right.
And really kind of, you want to have a little bit of curiosity, but you also want to be clear that they understand, okay, like this is what is the topic that you can talk about, right? Like,
Right.
so I don't know, like, so like something, powering, so I don't know, like, I can't remember what the topic was I used when I reached out to you, but something like, like the power of publicity for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Like something, okay, boom, I understand, and they can sift through the inbox and see, but because especially if you're doing print, if you're reaching out to print, like don't make them guess. I mean, there's someone's got like 50 or 70 pitches being in their inbox per day, and they have to try and guessing, well, what is this pitch about? What are they going to be talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Get as close to on board to the point right off the bat, because
Mm-hmm.
like you have like just 2 seconds to get the
Yeah,
people.
same with the website. Kind of like same ideas for when I build websites, right? It's the same thing. It's like, what are you all about? Who are you for? What do I get? It's the same idea. Um, and I guess it helps to have your own unique point of view. Like one thing that you said, I can't remember if it was in the email or that you sent or on your website, but you talked about that visibility is not just a vanity metric. And that's kind of an interesting angle, right? Because everyone thinks, ooh, PR, or, ooh, even I tell people I have a podcast, they're like, oh, it's like, it's so easy to make a podcast these days. It's not really I don't think I'm that special for having a podcast, but like you could do it too. I kind of look at them and say, but having your own unique take on things and your own unique angle, it probably helps when you're pitching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because again, you want to, the media is looking for interesting stories. What is going to grab the audience? Like think
Yeah.
about for yourself when you're scrolling or you're, going through and listening to podcasts, what makes you stop? That's what they're looking for. So you want to have like bring that to when you're pitching. Again,
Mhm.
what's in it for the audience? What
Yeah.
can I bring to the table that nobody else has? What is my secret sauce? And that's
Yeah.
what's going to make people really take notice. Like, my point of view, like you were saying, is it's not, I mean, publicity is not a vanity metric. I believe that you need publicity for the sake of publicity that's a myth, right? You need to be thinking of publicity as being building that foundation on which you build your marketing house. That's
Mm.
how I look at publicity because, people need to know you, they need to trust you, and they need to like you before they're going to buy from you.
Yeah.
And they're saying now it's like, I think I've read anywhere from 17 to 70 touch
I
points
know.
when someone is ready because there's just so much noise. Here's an interesting, like, this is why I'm so like with our own agency, we are so into podcasting because this is an incredible statistic. 80% of people who start listening to a podcast episode will stay to the end,
Oh, that's
right?
good. Good news for me.
Good news for you. Yeah, and the reason why is because people can multitask.
Yes.
They can be they can be going to work, they can be in the garden, they can be walking their dog. They're not stuck watching a screen or reading something.
Or taking notes for a course or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why podcasting is growing, and so many people listen to podcasts on a regular basis. And you have an audience that is listening, that they're really paying attention. Where else can you get undivided attention from someone for 30 to 60 minutes who doesn't know you? Like that
Yeah,
is so
absolutely.
powerful. And by the end of them listening to you for that interview, they're going to have a pretty darn good idea if they like, trust, and know you. Like they feel like they know you. Like, yes, this person knows what they're talking about. I would like to go deeper with them.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know that statistic. That's really good to know. But yeah, and I do that too. I put on a podcast and I clean the house or whatever I'm doing, cooking, driving. I'm always listening to that rather than the radio, usually. So that's really good to know. I'm going to tell
Yeah.
more people about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as publicity tactics, we did talk a little bit about AI, how AI is scraping this stuff. But other than that, is there anything that used to work, but now is outdated? You talked about I think there's a famous saying, maybe it's in Hollywood or something, and no publicity is bad publicity. You talked a little bit about that. But is there
Yeah.
anything that doesn't work now that used to work that we should know about?
Well, I mean, back in the day, like when I first started back in the 90s, you used to like do a press release. It would go across the fax machine into like the actual news wire. The editor would take it off and then, assign it to a journalist. Things obviously have changed since then because now we have access directly to the media people. And most people are not in a newsroom, they're
Yeah.
working from wherever. So for a while, their press releases kind of like, they were still useful, but they weren't as useful as they used to be. Now with this advent of AI, they have become important again. The reason being is that, like, for example, when we write a press release for our clients and we send it out for distribution, these get printed, like published on over 400 media sites. So now all of a sudden you have 400 authority sites with your material. So AI sees that and it's like, oh, all right, this is someone who is credible. They are being, showcased as an expert in their field. I need to pay attention to this. Same with podcasts. The great thing about podcasts is because of the transcriptions that get scraped. And you think about, if you've got a transcription from a 60-minute interview, that's a lot of information about you talking and showing your expertise.
Yes.
Same with getting in, why it's important to get into like those niche publications we were talking about, like the little league and the minor leagues. Those are super important because if you get into those outlets, be it a blog or a newsletter, online magazine, okay, like maybe, if you're in say the oil and gas industry, so you're in some magazine that's specifically for people who are in oil and gas, that is building your authority as a niche expert. Right? So yes, obviously we'd be great to get into Forbes or New York Times or Success magazines. Like you do want to get some of that, but do not discount the importance of these smaller, super niche outlets because that's where you are being showcased as an expert in that particular field of yours.
Okay. So when your PR thing goes to the distribution sites, are you ranked or like how does that work when
Well,
it
no,
shows up?
so all of these media outlets, it could be
Yeah.
anywhere from, affiliates for the major news and the major TV networks, ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, they all have websites and they all need to have news on
Right.
it's a black hole, right? The
Right.
news,
They have to fill that with something. So is
they're
that
never
kind of
gonna,
like I've heard of help a reporter out? Do you use that? Have you heard of that
okay,
one?
That's a different, okay, so that's a different approach. So for
Okay.
media releases, there's like, PR Newswire, EI Newswire, you pay, and then they distribute it, and then these outlets will publish your media release onto their website. All right.
Gotcha.
So then that's helping you. It is, I mean, it's still the old Google search engine is still helping, because then you're getting the backlinks, you're getting, your SEO, your keywords, blah, blah, blah. But for getting into publications, because there's two ways to do it, right? To get it into, we have the outbound. So that's where, like, you are researching, say you want to pitch somebody at, Entrepreneur Magazine. You're going to research and see who's covering my beat, right? Like if I'm in oil and gas, who's going to be the best reporter? Because you can't just like, hey, editor over at Success Magazine or Entrepreneur Magazine, feature a story about me. No, you have to, it's like going to a department store. You're not going to walk into ladies' lingerie if you want to buy a tennis racket. Right. So you got to figure out what department do I go to? Who's the writer that's covering these types of stories? Look at the type of stories that they're writing, and then pitch a specific story that's going to be in line with that particular outlet's voice. So that's like outbound. The other is inbound. So that's like, there's outlets, Help a Reporter Out, which is a free site. There is SOS as well. There is Quoted, KWOTED. Those are all websites where reporters are looking, right? Because how when you read a story, like they're quoting different experts, you're like, well, how the heck do they find these people? This is how they're doing it.
See. Okay.
Right? So
Gotcha.
so if you sign up, these are free sites. So for example, if you sign up for Haro or SOS, what's going to happen is 3 times a day, Monday through Friday, you're going to get an email, and it's going to show you, here's all the stories that reporters are working on. And they're looking for people who can answer like these specific questions. So what you do is, you stop, drop, roll, take the moment when it comes in, because a lot of it is whoever's like, who's fast.
Yes, true.
Scan it. If you see something that is appropriate, answer it. But again, you don't go off on a tangent. You don't want to be, they want the answer for that specific question, because that's what they need for their story. Don't give them something else. If they're asking for applesauce, don't give them cheesecake.
Right.
So answer the question, but give them what I call the $1,000 answer. Don't give them the answer that anybody and their dog would know. What would someone pay you $1,000 for if you were consulting them? That's the answer you want to give to this reporter. And you want to make sure that it is printable, because a lot of times what happens, because they're always on a deadline, right? They're just like boom, 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 like I've got to get the story in. They're just going to copy and paste it right into the article. I'd say about 99% of the time, they will never even contact you. And you won't even know if you made it into these stories, which is why you want to make sure that you set up a Google alert for your name and for your business. Because let me tell you, there's going to be times when, if you're doing any of this, stories are going to go live. You have no idea that you're out there.
Oh yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I never thought of doing that for myself.
Yeah.
I have a friend who got into some kind of paper or something in England. She's over here with me in Calgary. But yeah, she's a sexologist, and she answered a question about I think like weight loss, like, or something like that. So, which kind of ties in, I guess. If you feel sexy, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, but she got featured in some thing in England, like, which is so funny. But I hadn't thought of putting a Google alert for my business. That's a great piece of advice. So that's a little different. So it's just a quotable, like, bite-sized sound bite that they can insert into an article they're already writing, which may feature other experts and things like that. But it still would work as a backlink to your business and your website as well.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, we got, like, for example, one of our clients got into Martha Stewart Living, which is huge, right? And so she was quoted with, like, 2 other experts, but her URL link is like right up there. And the thing is, like, usually, unless it's a feature story about you, rarely are you going to be the only expert in the story.
Right.
Like
And
that's normal.
those feature stories about you, are you writing them or is the reporter writing them? Like, are you supposed to send your already written article? No, just
No,
the bullet points. Okay.
just no. Like when you're answering, okay, so if you're answering like Haro, like when they're saying, hey, okay, I'm writing an article, like for example, I'll give you what our client the other day. I'm writing an article about nostalgia gardening, which is a new a trend about recreating these gardens from your childhood, right?
Mm.
So, can you answer like these 3 questions? So she did, and so what she did is she just, and her answers were, the spelling was perfect, the grammar was perfect. These were answers that could be cut and paste and directly into the story, and she got featured because we were quick, and and she was thorough, and she was giving us, again, her perspective as an expert that was different from the other experts that were quoted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that's where you're going with that. The journalist's job is to write. Your
Right.
job is not to write. Like your job, and when you're answering these types of outreaches, yeah, you give them something that they can cut and paste. If you're doing an outreach to say, hey, I have an idea for a story,
Gotcha.
that's
You're not writing that.
you're not
Yeah.
you're not writing unless you're applying to be. There are some outlets that will take
Yeah.
contributing writers or like blogs, but you
Right.
want to make sure that you're going to get the yes before you write.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, you're not gonna spend all that time if you're just pitching. I get it now. Okay.
Yeah.
But the Haro and SOS, that's more like a quote. They'll probably even put it in quotes, right? When
Yeah, like
they
they'll
cut
say,
and paste it, that's
Bob
your
Smith,
quote. Yeah,
blah blah blah. Bob Smith,
gotcha.
owner of blah blah blah
Oh,
bag, our business. But
yeah.
yeah, generally when you're pitching, like, you don't have, like, people are like, oh, but I'm not a writer. That's
Yeah,
okay.
no, you don't
That's
have
not
to
your
be.
job.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just pitching and they do that for you. If you're on a podcast, of course, you're just speaking. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know about a bunch of that stuff, so that's super helpful. Is there anything else that people should know if it's their first time reaching out, stepping out into that spotlight? I mean, I know get over yourself is step one. Anything else to know if this is
Yeah,
your first
don't
time?
look at you. You're gonna have to do a lot of pitches right
Okay.
now. Like, this is not easy. I mean, it's not brain surgery, but it's also like the cold outreach. Right now, the figures, like the statistics are showing, so about a 15% response rate from podcasters. That doesn't mean booking rate. That just means
Right.
response. So for 100 pitches that you put out, you can expect 15 to get back to you either saying, yes, we're interested, or thank you, but no, we're going to pass. And, and like, if they pass, it doesn't mean like that door is shut completely. It just means that maybe they don't have the audience right now. Like maybe they don't have the space for it right now. Maybe they just had somebody on who just did an episode that was just kind of covering the same topic. So don't be afraid. Maybe every quarter or every 6 months, go back. Right. The other thing is, like, with print, it's like around a 4% response rate.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, like, you have to, like, get over yourself. Don't take that response, like that lack of response, or because a lot of them won't even get back to you. You just
Yeah.
feel like you're kind of like spitting into the void sometimes because
Yeah.
you're putting all these pitches out and you're doing the follow up, but you don't hear anything. Don't take it personally. Like, that's the
Yeah.
other thing. You've got to get over your ego. This is nothing personal. It is a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to a bit of a numbers game. And then you get better. It's like a muscle. You're going to get better with your pitches. You're going to get better with your headlines. I can see, keep track of that. Okay, are you seeing that with a certain subject line? Are you getting more response? Okay, how do you recreate that for your next pitch?
Yeah.
right? But if you don't do anything, then nothing's going to happen. So
Nobody's going
even
to come to you for PR. You're the one that's having to pitch, right? Yeah.
right, you have to get yourself out there. And a great place to start is, start with sign up for Haro, help a reporter out, sign up for SOS, sign up for Quoted, and just, start doing podcast outreach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't even have to start your own podcast. It's much easier to just be a guest on podcasts.
It's way easier to be a guest. It is, because here's another interesting statistic. Only 10% of podcasts ever make it past episode 20.
I know. I'm almost there. I did another podcast, so if I count those, then I am past it. It just I had a co-host, so I rebranded. But yeah, I did know that because she owns a podcasting agency, and she told me. I think she told me even 8. I think the number may have dropped. I don't know.
Oh.
I think she told me 8 or something like that. But anyway, it's not very many. But because it is a commitment, right? There's the time involved doing it. There's editing. There's graphics. There's putting it up and blah blah blah. So being a guest, you're just that hour talking. It's easy to talk, and then you've got this forever content up there. So
exactly. And the thing I would say, don't take it personally. Don't get upset if you don't hear back, or if you're not accepted, like whatever, like just carry on, right? Carry on. A great way to stand out with podcasts is to start, build that relationship, like leave a review and leave a comment on an episode, because then, very few, this is the thing that's funny. I had someone, they were like, well, I don't know, but this podcast only, it says it has, 20,000 monthly listeners, but I only see 20 reviews. And it's like, very few people will take the time to do a review on a podcast because it takes more work.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever reviewed a podcast, and I listened to tons of them. There's a couple I listen to religiously, but I don't think I've ever left a review. You just don't really think about doing that.
No. And so, you know what? This is a little tip for everybody. When you go and you listen to those podcasts, take a couple of notes so that you can refer to it when you do the pitch. Leave a 5-star review, and actually one little sentence, not just oh, this is a great podcast, but take a little bit of put a little bit of effort into it, right?
Yeah.
And then when then wait about a week or so, and then when you pitch, put a PS. Hey, I left you a 5-star review. Keep up the great work. Because
I've even seen someone put a screenshot of their review just to kind of prove that they did it, to remind them, hey, this is me, to make that connection, because you might have a different screen name or whatever.
Yeah, my only concern with that, if it's a cold pitch, is it going to get because if it's an attachment?
True. Yeah.
But I think
you could just copy and paste the text that you left.
Yeah.
In a format.
Yeah. But I think most people think you say I left a 5-star review, they're gonna go check their
check it. Yeah.
And be like, oh, they did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, good tip.
Now you've invested in them. You have shown that you're invested in that podcast by showing and making reference to a specific something that was in that another podcast episode. You're not just spraying and praying, because you know what, the media can tell from a mile away if you're just taking spaghetti and tossing it against the wall and hoping something sticks.
I've had pitches like that, not for necessarily podcasting, but just for working with somebody. It's oh, hey, I love what you're doing with Instagram. It's so blah, blah, blah. I'm I didn't do that on Instagram. It's just, you can tell it's generic. It's well, that's not me. So I'm going to delete this email. Thanks for nothing. But yeah. Exactly. So you don't want to be that guy. You want to stand out, and that's really good. Well, thank you, Larissa. Lots of great tips and advice here for people to just get started. That's amazing. I know you have, where can people find you, connect with you, support you online?
Well, I'm lucky in that I am the only Larissa Banting in the world. Very family. Yeah. So, larissabanting.com. That is my website. I have, you can find out more information. We have, some our different offers and things that I do have an agency, but we do have offers also, like programs that for people who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, authors. We do podcast pitching. I have, small, like, do it yourself kind of DIY. So if you want to go there, and I also have a special freebie gift for, we were talking about freebies.
I'm going to put it up on the screen here. So this one, right?
Right. So this is called 365 days to power up your publicity. You know how, like, is Talk Like a Pirate Day, or
Yeah.
Camp Maloney Day? This is a great way to get started, because this is a calendar. It has all of the special days and months for the entire year, so you can go through and see what are those days that would tie in to your business. Because the local media, especially, they're always looking for those angles, because those are kind of angles. So you can come up with an idea and then pitch it to your local media. And you can morning shows, like the TV, looking for that type of thing. Local media, I wouldn't necessarily do that for podcasts, because podcasts are evergreen. But
yes, they are.
Television, radio, and daily print are great to tie in with those special days. You can also use it for your blogs. You can use it for your emails, for your social media. So yeah, grab your gift, and I hope that's a great way. Just get started with PR. Even just doing 30 minutes a week, and I guarantee you're going to start seeing that momentum build.
Yeah, what a great resource. Thank you for that. And I know listeners can find you on social media. If you just type in your name, Larissa Banting, or some variation thereof. I know there's underscores in some places, but I had to condense it for this little line here. So Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you search for Larissa Banting, you'll find her. And yeah, what a great episode. Thank you so much for all this great information. And I hope everybody just goes out there and gets over themselves, signs up for some. I think I might re-sign up for Help a Reporter Out. I used to be part of that.
Perfect.
And at least set up my Google, what do you call it, alerts for myself.
Yeah, because the other thing too, if you really quickly, if you signed up for your your kind of specialty, your industry, you're going to be seeing what the media is talking about, and that's a great way to stay, keep your finger on the pulse of what's right now in your industry as well.
Yeah, great way to spy on things. So just do a little recon work. Well, thank you so much, Larissa. We'll chat a little bit later, but thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you found this beneficial, and